Hello, Avila Advantage students. We're now in week 3 and we're quickly moving right along in the course. So you all are doing a great job with the forum discussions. Continue with the MyEcon Labs. Again, with the MyEcon Labs, I'm looking that you're completing the assignments to get credit for that or to get points for those assignments. So we're going to have another forum discussion this week. And then the week after that, we'll have our first exam. But to focus on this week first, I'm going to have you go visit the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis website. And you're going to go do a little inflation calculator. So I want you to read a little bit about how the inflation calculator works, how CPI has a base year and adjusts up and down from whatever the base year is. But then also to go out and pick out some item that you would have purchased in the past and see what that had cost today. And then kind of reflect on that. Did it outpace the inflation rate or did it understate the inflation rate? And I use like $1 that I can remember buying gas maybe back in 1991, and today in 2014 it said it would cost like $1.70 something. We know it's much more than that. So gasoline has obviously outpaced the inflation rate. But also too, just for fun too, I put another link in there that has the all-time highest grossing movies in terms of sales, but they're adjusted for today's dollars. So Gone with the Wind is number 1. So just for fun, I want you to go look at that list and out of the list of 200, what's your favorite movie on that list? And how did it rank in all times of grossing sales? So just make that initial post by Friday and respond with a comment to at least one other student by the end of the week. And you should be good for the forum discussion. With our chapters this week, kind of start to focus more on the national economy, the macroeconomy. Some of the things we're going to look at is, the definition of GDP, gross domestic product, all the goods and services produced within the United States borders, regardless of whether it's foreign owned or U.S. owned. And more so too about how we define inflation. In order to look at inflation, we have to keep for the CPI index, we keep the basket of the goods the same. Say it was 100 hot dogs and 50 Cokes, and what was the price of the hot dog and the Coke in 2010? And then we go to 2011, same basket of hot dogs and Cokes. That is the same amount of Cokes and hot dogs. And now what did it cost in that year? So we look at those percentage changes to look at the rate of inflation. And one of the big concerns with inflation, obviously, is it can have wealth effects, especially if our wages are not keeping up with the inflation rate. So we could actually make ourselves worse off. Some of the things in there, you're going to talk about the business cycle. The business cycle is something that we have observed historically over a period of time. It kind of has, its upward movements, its peaks, its downturns, its troughs, and one of the good things is with a lot of the things with institutions we have placed in the United States right now, this business cycle is less severe. So a lot of these automatic stabilizers that we'll read about when we get to fiscal policy has hopefully helped reduce some of those cycles in the business cycle. And we're trying to rebound right now. We've seen unemployment improving slightly, but there's still concern that maybe a lot of these people just gave up looking for jobs. And that's another key thing we're going to talk about this week too, is the unemployment. We read about that. There's different types. There's frictional, say if someone enters the workforce for the first time, or say that a spouse gets a job somewhere in California and they have to move from Missouri. Well, maybe the other spouse is looking for a job. And it could be structural, and that could just be due to changes in demand for a particular product or how things are done or changes in the economy. So you'll learn more about how the unemployment rate is calculated this week. Also, you'll focus on how GDP is calculated. Most of the focus of the last chapter you'll read this week is on the aggregate expenditures approach. Essentially, we look at GDP as a combination of consumption, investment, government expenditures, and the difference between exports and imports. So abbreviated, it's GDP equals C plus I plus G plus X minus M. And actually, consumption is 2/3 of our economy. That's what really drives our economy. So the market's had a pretty good week this week. There's probably maybe some greater optimism now about the future, but this might be a kind of bumpy year for the stock market in 2014. And if bad news comes out again, the market could be going down the other way again. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see how things play out this year. But we're all trying to, federal institutions are trying to balance between unemployment, inflation, and GDP growth. And usually if you have good GDP growth, that means you're going to have a lower unemployment rate. So that's what we're trying to shoot for now. And later in the course, we'll learn about different policies, whether monetary, fiscal, to try to get us on the right track. Well, that's kind of a brief summary of everything you're going to work on this week. But again, Just plug away in those My Econ labs, then also jump in that forum discussion. And, pretty soon we're going to have our first exams. We'll have a lighter forum discussion next week. But otherwise, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.